Kia ora, it's Chris with Earth Sciences New Zealand with a special recording here because of a red warning MetService has issued. This red warning for high wind, damaging wind for the day on Thursday. Let's get to it. So this is early Thursday morning. The red warning in effect for much of Canterbury, Timaru, over toward Ashburton, Christchurch, and also the lower North Island, Wellington. You can go to the MetService website and see that where those warnings are. We're here to support that messaging and talk more about what to expect in terms of impacts and where and when the worst of the wind may be. There will be rain, too, on the west coast. We'll touch on that in a moment. So early in the morning at 4 o'clock, there is our low pressure spinning just to the west and southwest of Fiordland. This is the reason for the intense wind. There's a significant change in air pressure from the lower South Island to the upper North Island. And as I said before, it's like putting your thumb over a garden hose. That water squirts out fast. And while Mother Nature's putting her thumb over the air, and that means we're getting these really strong winds. So state of play, 4 o'clock in the morning, the strongest winds where you see the red over the higher elevations. So when most people are sleeping here, so over toward the southern Alps, this is where wind gusts are likely to be near and above 100 kilometers per hour in that red. Things are going to change, though. As I put this into motion, notice as we move our way towards, say, 5, now just after 6 o'clock, we see this area right here. So this region I'm kind of highlighting and circling. There's going to be a surge of very strong, likely damaging wind that is going to push east and southeast with time. So I'll clean this up and get rid of that, and you're going to see what I'm talking about here. So again, this is just after 6 o'clock in the morning. Watch as, let me zoom in just a little bit, as we move forward with time, you can see that red. See how that moves east? And look at these wind gusts that are forecast. 130, 150, 100, I mean, we'll see if we get to 180. Some of these wind gusts the model is putting out are really hard to believe. You saw 200 there. I'm not sure we'll see that, but the model has been putting out some very high-end wind gusts. Nonetheless, wind gusts of 130, 150 kilometers per hour, perhaps locally higher. This is what is expected, and this has triggered that red warning that MetService has issued. So again, this is just after 9 o'clock in the morning, and you can see the strongest winds are forecast to be, there's Ashburton, Leaston, over toward Darfield. We'll get some strong winds as we move this back, Temuka, fairly, maybe toward Timaru as well. And then eventually by 9:30, 10 o'clock, you can see that band right here I'm pointing to. Let's shift that a little bit and center that. This that I'm pointing to, you can see how by 10:30 in the morning, I mean, don't take this as gospel, but just it's quite indicative of what to expect. Culverden, Hamner Forest, Rangiora, Christchurch, all seeing some very strong wind gusts, 140, 150, 130, even higher, where the strongest gusts likely to be in northern portions of Canterbury. If the modeling is correct, places like Culverden, places like Hamner Forest, Hamner Springs, that is where we could see the highest wind gusts sometime late in the morning, around morning tea time. As we continue to move this forward, you can see by midday that initial surge of wind moves off to the east, but we got more back here. So while you can see how here's 11 o'clock in the morning, and then by midday, 12 noon, 1 o'clock, we see places like Timaru, Oamaru, over toward Temuka. You can see wind gusts easily above 100K, 120K, 130K. Also, we can't ignore the lower portion of the South Island over toward Balclutha. Now, there isn't a red warning here, but wind gusts of 120, 110 kilometers per hour. Gore, Tapanui, Balclutha, Dunedin could see some gusts well over 100K. So this will be a widespread event. So different areas of the South Island will find high wind gusts, perhaps at different times of the day. Let's zoom out and give you some perspective. Once again, I want to go to the North Island. That'll be coming in just a moment. But you can see how, again, there is that initial surge of high wind late in the morning toward midday. That moves off to the east, and another round of wind comes in during the early afternoon hours and spreads east. Let's go to the lower North Island because places like Wellington, we had some really high wind on Tuesday, unfortunately, fatality. Let's see what we can expect in terms of wind gusts during the day for the lower North Island. So around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, things just getting started in terms of high wind. Wind gusts in that 90 to 100K range, where the Tataroo is likely to see the higher gusts. But notice as we move forward, you can see how the red really starts to fill in. And then by roughly 12 noon, midday, we see the Tataruas, wind gust of 130, 140, even higher potentially. In Wellington proper with wind gust of 100, 120, 110 kilometers per hour. And those gusts could actually go higher, 130 Ks, distinctly possible, if not likely. And winds of this magnitude likely causing tree damage, property damage, power cuts. And on top of this, you know about the fires. We've heard about the fires that have been going on in portions of Canterbury toward Kaikoura. Also, we have the fires in Hawke's Bay. As of this recording, again, we are recording this on Wednesday, the 22nd of October, and this is for Thursday, the 23rd of October. So this wind is certainly going to be unwelcome news because if the fires are still going, that could certainly flare things up, or if new fires form, that too could be a problem. So that wind continues to be quite strong throughout the capital and the lower North Island around midday on Thursday. And notice as we put this into motion, the winds do ease during the late afternoon and evening hours. If you have flights, travel plans in Wellington, Christchurch, across much of the eastern south, even Dunedin, you want to think ahead. There is likely to be significant disruption with travel and flights in and out of the Wellington area and eventually also Christchurch and perhaps even places like Dunedin. So something to bear in mind. I do want to touch on the fire risk because this is also a significant facet to this weather system. Low humidity. You can see anywhere in the tan. This is where humidity is forecast to be anywhere from 30 to 40%, perhaps even lower. And look at these temperatures. So we have low humidity, and look at the temperatures. We're going to see temperatures rising into the anywhere into the mid to maybe upper 20s. Kaikoura could see temperatures. I was doing a forecast for Fire and Emergency New Zealand earlier this morning, and temperatures were forecast to reach in the upper 20s to perhaps near 30 degrees in that part of Canterbury. So very warm temperatures. On top of that, Hawke's Bay is going to see some very warm temperatures. We could see temperatures easily in the upper 20s and may challenge 30 degrees in parts of Hawke's Bay, Napier, Hastings. They too will have low humidity, so there is also a fire risk concern in that area. Before we go, let's touch on the rain because over on the western side of the Alps, it will be wind as well. I don't want to ignore you guys. You'll find strong winds as well over toward the west coast of the South Island, but that wind will be accompanied by heavy rain. So here is early in the morning on Thursday. You can see heavy rain will be falling across much of the western South Island, particularly about the Alps and from Haas to Hokitika down to Fiordland. And that rain band does move north. Very little will make it across the divide. Some showers possible in Christchurch, he said, toward midday. But that rain band, thankfully, will be on the move. In spite of that, rainfall totals by Thursday afternoon are forecast to be, well, let's take it to, say, Thursday evening. You can see many areas about the Alps, 200-300 millimeters of rain. Again, this is over the higher elevation of the Southern Alps and down into Fiordland. You combine the heavy rain, which we saw some of that on Monday, another round of heavy rain, and the melting snow. There's been a fair amount of snow at altitude over the past several weeks, and the river flows are likely to be quite high. So this is our prediction of river flows. This is an uncalibrated river flow model, and you can see a lot of areas by 4 o'clock in the afternoon forecast to be in the purple. Those are extremely high river flows. So the risk of river flooding we cannot exclude over portions of the western South Island because of melting snow, heavy rainfall. Something to keep in mind if you have travel plans or live in the west of the South Island. If there's going to be river flooding, obviously follow the advice of councils. They issue those warnings and alerts, but it's likely to be in areas where we have the extremely high flows that are forecast. So again, a multifaceted event. We are going to see this wind eventually easing Thursday night into Friday. But the worst of the weather likely from early Thursday into about late afternoon Thursday. Stay on top of the warnings with MetService and also listen to the advice of any local officials. A day not to be outside across much of the South Island and lower North Island. I'm Earth Sciences meteorologist Chris Brandolino. We'll see you next time. Namahi Nui.